Welcome back, guys. You got Laura, Sammy. I have a webcam now, so I think my video will be better than last time.
Yes.
So yeah,
Super
thank you for that,
excited.
Sammy. Yes.
Of
So it is
course.
Friday, January 12th, recording date. And
First podcast
so
of the year.
true. Yes, first podcast of the year. So we'll talk about getting back on track because it's kind of that mode, resolution season, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But before we do that, there's a few exciting bodybuilding things we could touch on too. Oh, and I have one more thing too that I just saw on YouTube that bodybuilding related.
So I think the first thing we wanted to touch on was the email that a lot of us pros got, I think all of us pros, the other day about the new registration process, which I thought was super interesting and kind of really makes it easy for everybody.
Yeah, so basically it's now all online instead of having to go to the post office and do a money, or was it the IFBB Pro card or was it just the shows?
Did you have to do that?
For what?
A money order?
For pro cards, yeah. That's how
Oh, wow. I did not have to do that.
You could wire it. I mean, there were a few ways, but I think the money order was the easiest one.
That's so crazy. So it's changed since. So this last year when I got my pro card, I did mine all online. I think I just put in my credit card information and that was it.
Okay. Yeah, in the past it wasn't online. So I think when I've done mine, it was always like you could wire, but I'd rather not do a wire, so you could just go get a money order and mail them a slip. So yeah, so okay, so cool. It's all mine. Sorry if you can hear Frankie. He's crazy. He's up here. He was napping for hours while I was working, and now he's like ready to rage.
He's like, "Mom, podcast is on. Let's go."
He's like, everyone knows who the real star of the show is.
Yes. He's like, the star is here.
Yeah. Actually, I might make him his own Instagram.
The registration is updated. Oh my God, do it.
Yeah, I have an account for it, so I just have to start posting on it. It'll be a lot of the videos.
So cute.
It'll be a lot of the late night videos of Rafa just messing with him. She does a lot of funny stuff. So,
is he registered as a service animal?
He was. I'll just bring him up here so everyone knows. Everyone who doesn't follow me on Instagram knows who I'm talking about. This is Frankie.
He's so cute.
He used to be, but I think it expired.
Register him. Yeah, renew it and just start bringing him to shows and expos.
Yeah, I'd like to. I feel like he'd get a little overwhelmed with those bigger crowds. Oh yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, that's not a bad idea. I brought him to shows during pandemic era when there was no audience and he could just like stay in the hotel room with me while I was watching the live stream. So I've done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as the registration, big tangent on Frankie, it's all online now. And supposedly, although I would probably be willing to bet money that this may not apply for everyone, you can't register for the show after the Monday of the week leading up to the show.
I did see that. And what was crazy, so for those of you who don't know, so when you turn pro, and this was something very new to me literally until the day I turned pro, as a amateur competitor, you go online, you register for your show, you pay your entry fee, so long as you have your active NPC card. When you turn pro, you do also pay for your pro card annually, similar to your NPC card, but you just have to sign a contract to compete at a show. You don't have to register anymore. You don't pay registration fees. If you register for a show and don't show up, they do charge you a penalty fee for that though. So there is a fee associated if you end up not showing up, but the initial contract signing doesn't require any fees, which is nice. But before, you had to send an email, request the contract for said show that you're planning on, competing in, sign it, and then email it back to them. So now it's all online.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it'll be a much, much smoother process for everyone. Because I know there were times during last year too where I think I requested my contract for Clash like last minute, and their office was backed up or something, so I didn't get it. Normally they
Yeah.
would send it right away. I didn't get it right away, and I was like, oh gosh, am I going to be in the show? So yeah, you're not supposed to be able to sign up after Monday after the show. We'll see. I feel like promoters here and there may still want pros in their show. We'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah, so just makes it easy for everyone. So that was a big announcement this week. And then on
Yeah.
Saturday,
And two, sorry, isn't their office in Pittsburgh?
mm-hmm.
So that's nice too. So like us East or West Coast people, if we wanted to request a contract like after their office is closed, now we still have access to it just like whenever we want to get on. So that's nice too, that we don't have to wait for them to get back and hope that they got back very, very, very quick. So there's, no issues there, but it's nice that we can just, submit it
Exactly.
immediately.
Exactly. Yeah. And now the show calendar, I know everyone was waiting for that forever. The show schedule's up. Arnold is the next major show coming up really soon. I think that's either 6 or 7 weeks from Saturday. I think maybe 6 weeks, something like that. So I'm having fun watching all of the. Let's just look real quick. Actually, I need to figure out my travel plans. Have you booked everything?
So I have an Airbnb booked, but no flights booked yet.
Yeah, I need to figure that out.
Last time I got my expo tickets like the day of, so I'll probably get them ahead of time now, but that's usually not an issue. I don't get like VIP or anything like that, so I usually don't have any issues.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
It should be really fun.
Yeah. It was still like, while the expo scene isn't as big as it used to be, I will say that like Arnold still did a great job of like making their expo big. It's not like the expo scene changed even just in the last, like I would say since the C word, it's changed immensely in terms of like samples and stuff like that. Like you used to be able to go to an expo and you would leave with a ginormous bag of like every BCAA protein pre-workout. Like you were set for a solid 6 to 9 months with supplements. So I will say it's not like that anymore, but it's still cool to see like all of the big names in the industry there still, and just the vibe, like the vibe and the energy is A+, always.
Yeah, I think the expo has gotten better and better. I worked it the last 2 years in a row, so I would say last year was better than the year prior. And the Arnold is cool too because it's not just bodybuilding; it's all these different sports. So you have such great participation, and I thought the expo was really good. C word, it was almost too much because I worked it in 2018. And it was so packed that it would take you almost like a half an hour to walk to the restroom. So even if the restroom was in eyesight, maybe 50 yards away where you could see the sign up on the wall in that expo hall, it was so packed with people that it's like sardines. And that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's also, it's
not enjoyable.
No, it's to be able to walk down the aisles like freely like that. I think that's a good thing. So I think it'll be a great year. The show is just stacked. Like every category has such good athletes in it that's always my favorite part too, is just watching pre-judging and finals. So I'm very excited for that.
And it's cool too because like there's definitely a variety. Like I would say I'm still like relatively new in the scene, so like some of the names aren't super familiar to me, but like there's big names, there's new girls, and there's girls that haven't competed in a while. So it's like it's a really nice mix, and like you said, the lineup is just stacked. So it'll be really cool to see. Yeah,
for Bikini, and we could even pull that up too. Maybe one of us could find, or Sammy, if you have access to find like that graphic that they put up on Instagram or their little page for Bikini. Yeah. But they really opened it up because the last 2 years, and basically every division, I believe, they only had about 10 competitors. And the Arnold is invite only. So it's not like you can just sign a contract and do it. You have to apply. In the last 2 years, I know for sure in open bodybuilding and Bikini, it was only 10 competitors. So this year they've opened it up a lot more. So you're right. There is a much bigger variety of athletes, especially in
Yeah.
bikini, because you've got Angelica returning. She hasn't competed in several years.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting.
Yes, I'm
Former,
excited. I've heard
yeah.
so much about her, but I haven't seen her compete yet. So I'm so
Uh-huh.
excited to start like following
Yeah.
her a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw her at some of the Olympias and whatnot back in the day. So, and she was two-time Miss Bikini Olympia. So she, has a lot of muscle, great shape and posing and all that, but it'll, with time off, it'll definitely be very, interesting to see how she matches up in the lineup. And then you've got,
Yeah,
up
and
and
she's a
coming
mom.
gals. She's a mom.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's
which
why,
is
that's why she
awesome
took
to
her time
see.
off. That's why she took her time off, is to have a family.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to think who else
there's
we've got.
12
Oh,
girls this year. So there's
okay.
Tamika Carter, Ellie
hmm
Fernandez, Nana Eskandar, Rhoda Alley. So she actually won her pro card at Arnold Amateur last year, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Isa Bacchini, Laura Lee, Vanya,
hmm
Amy
Yep. Augusta.
Delgado, Phoebe, Angelica, Octavia, and Amanda.
Okay. Yeah. And the lineup, I think, is pretty similar for Arnold UK. There's a few different ones. I know Tara here in and she's in Huntington Beach. She's doing the Arnold UK after qualifying for the Olympia for the first year. So I like that they're mixing it up. And you're right, Rhoda is
Yeah.
really cool example of this. So one neat thing for amateur competitors to think about too, if you win the Arnold Amateur and turn pro, you have an open invite to do the Arnold the next year. So she's taking advantage of that, which is such a cool opportunity. So it's really,
Yeah.
I'm really liking watching her prep. She's doing a great job documenting it on Instagram.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
I actually, funny story, when I was in Vegas for Olympia last year, just as a spectator, so I decided not to compete after my placing in Florida. I was out at the clubs and I actually met her at the club. Like she was dancing on we had a table, so she was dancing on the booth behind my table. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love your energy. And I started talking to her, such a sweet soul. She's like, oh my goodness, hello. Like, and I had asked her what she was in town for, and she said Olympia. And I was like, oh my God, me too. And she's like, yeah, I competed yesterday. And I was like, oh my God, like she said it so nonchalantly. So I had followed her since, and like we've been in contact since. Such a sweetheart. So it's it's been awesome to see like her progress and her changes over time. It's so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you have that story too. So I met her at the Arnold last year before she won her pro card. So I did her suit adjustment before she competed. So since I was there with Toxic Angels, yeah, she was one of the appointments we had for the show. And obviously, like I could see her, like I think I only saw her like legs and glutes and stuff, but I was like in my head, and I will not say this, like I won't say this to girls ever. Like I don't like to speak in absolutes or whatever, but in my head, I'm like, this girl, she's got to be turning pro. Like there's just no way.
Oh yeah.
So I just had a feeling and was just like very positive. It just, she and her boyfriend were there and just kind of like hyping her up a little bit, like, cause I've got to, sew all the little things. So it takes a few minutes. But yeah, she's so sweet. And then I got to do, the Nashville Fit Show with her this year. So back in
that's right.
August. Yeah. So she had a great rookie season. Like she was placing top 5 in shows.
Oh yeah.
Be very excited to see her
with like top Olympians. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So she had an amazing year and I think she'll bring a really great look and it'll be fun to see her up there. So 100%. The Arnold would be really cool. I've got to figure out what I'm doing. So I'm planning to be there. It's just what am I going to be doing when I'm there? So I got to figure that out ASAP.
Yeah.
And then one other.
Maybe we'll have to. Oh,
yes,
sorry.
we'll have. Oh no, you're good. You're right. We have to figure out our in-person podcast. And Sammy, you have your community meetup too, right? While you're there.
Yeah. So that's who we'll get the Airbnb with. We have I think there's 10 of us total in the community that are meeting up. So my sister, her husband, and then a couple other people. We're all getting an Airbnb together. So that'll be super cool. So there's people pretty much across the US. A lot of them are from like Michigan and Ohio, so like in that central location, but that'll be fun.
Fun. That'll be really cool. So yeah, so we'll have to do our in-person,
Hmm.
and then we almost have our in-person location too for the podcast done. So that will be exciting to reveal and share when we have that, probably maybe in a few weeks, something like that.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, so that'll be cool. I think that probably covers it for the Arnold. But one thing I actually saw on YouTube today, just interesting for bodybuilding fans. So Sammy, did you ever watch the Bodybuilding and BS channel when it was on YouTube?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I watched it.
Yeah, it was great. It was up, I think it got taken down around the end of 2022 or very beginning of this year. And
Hmm.
Nick Trigili is the guy who runs it, and it blew up, like it grew super fast. And it was kind of like mostly focused on male bodybuilding, but every so often there'd be like a female
Hmm.
um video. So okay, so it's mostly focused on male bodybuilding, but it's kind of like a gossip channel of YouTube videos. So it was a little bit of
Okay.
like, just like the name implies, like a little bit of shit talking, maybe, little bit of just like current events, tea, things like that. So anyway, so this guy had his channel taken down, and he tried to put it up again, got taken down again for, I think, violating some type of community guidelines. But there's some page up today, like bodybuilding news and education. So it looks like he's back on YouTube. So his channel had
Oh, that's cool.
over 100,000 followers, and he's
Oh,
on
wow.
Instagram. He puts out content on Instagram, but it's just kind of
Yeah.
like a guilty pleasure for a lot of like bodybuilding
Yeah.
fans. So it'll be interesting
It's
to
like,
see if that
what's the
channel
tea in the
lasts.
bodybuilding world?
Literally. And like the videos would come out frequently. They're shorter. And I would like always, I'd
Uh-huh.
watch every single one. Yeah. So
That's awesome. I'll have to definitely check that out for sure.
yeah, I'll send it to you
I'm
after
like,
this.
what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll send you his Instagram. He's on Instagram too. He has content there. So I'll send it to you. But I think those are
Yeah.
the main updates as far as news or, um, I don't know, anything related to bodybuilding generally.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely approaching like our busy season of shows. So you and I, we for Pretty Posing, our posing company, we have seminars coming up. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely keep an eye out for that on our Pretty Posing Instagram. And then I would just say, I know I'm definitely going to make it a point to be at more shows this year. There's a lot of things like literally as of the last few days in the works. So aside from me just wanting to be at shows more often, I will most likely definitely be at shows more often.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. We'll wait to kind of announce that when it's finalized. But yeah, I'm excited to just be more present in the scene at expos and all that kind of stuff this year. So I really think this year's a year of growth, personally, business-wise, and just overall. So super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for you too. Knowing a little bit about that, maybe we'll have an exciting announcement next time we record an episode or something like that of what you're up to. So that'll be cool.
For sure.
Yeah. So those are the main things. I know as far as us, like I'm just chilling in my off season. Probably for a minute still. Sammy, do you have any, like, have you picked out any show dates, or you have any plans like that, or kind of where are you at with everything?
So if we're being honest, I didn't reverse properly, and I haven't taken the last couple months very as serious as I should have, especially coming into the new year. I've literally been sick for the last 2 weeks. So all of these like New Year's plans and like this gung-ho like resolution vibe that I had going on was literally just like kicked to the curb. But yeah, so now that I'm feeling better, I'm just getting back into the swing of things. I'm treating the next 3 months as if I'm on prep, because that's just how hard I need to go to, make up for the lack of everything that I've, done in the last 3 months. But that can be its own podcast episode in and of itself, is like, coming out of prep and reversing and the mental struggles that you go through. But Yeah,
Yeah.
so I won't dive into that too much, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
you're good,
so
babe.
probably another like 3 to 4 months of growth for me is what's necessary for me to even be competitive in the pro league for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And we could definitely do an episode on that. How's your I know we talked about this. How's your digestion doing? I know that was like a little bit of a challenge when we got
Yeah,
together
so
recently.
it's for sure. It's gotten a lot better, especially now that I've like steered away from just eating out all the time. Like now that I'm on actual like whole nutrient dense foods, it's gotten a lot better. I'm still in the process of getting that GI map that you suggested. So I'm really excited about that. My blood work came back and everything was like literally perfect. So I'm like,
Good.
okay, there's got to be something, which is great, obviously, of course, thankfully. But I'm like, there's got to be something else internally going on. So I'm excited for that GI map. And then I actually was listening to a podcast recently. It's called Diary of a CEO. His name is Steven. He has a bunch of like big name like doctors and just people in general on. And there was a gut health doctor. So he had a couple different like recommendations and suggestions on like just like simple things to incorporate into your like daily routine. He was really big on like gut microbiome and your gut microbiome count and how it can affect just obviously your whole digestive system as a whole. So I've been slowly implementing those kinds of things into my routine. And then just once I get this GI map, I think we'll have, a better idea of things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that podcast, Diary of a CEO. And I saw that episode too. It was a good one where he brought the like
Yeah.
examples of poop.
Yes. I was like, so it was so funny. We were on the plane flying back from Austin, and I was like laying there, like with my eyes closed. And like, I was like, subconsciously listening or whatever. And then I like opened my eyes and I picked up the phone, and he literally is like handing him a plate of poop. And I was like, this is so normal. I was like, I literally got more intrigued once they brought that out. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to link that podcast in the show notes or something so you guys can see what we're talking about. It's obviously fake. It's fake and
No,
like
they're fake
made of
poops.
clay or
Fake poops.
Play-Doh, but
Yeah. I sent that episode to the group chat of my clients because it's really common to have bloating, bad digestion. And a lot of the stuff they talked about was stuff I already know, but that's because like I'm coaching and I've been doing this forever. So a lot of my clients, they don't know all of the great tips and info that he had to share. So I thought that was a really good episode, but I'm glad to hear you're doing better. So
and a lot of it,
that's good.
Thanks. But yeah, I feel like that definitely kind of ties into the whole getting back on track and New Year's resolutions. So like whether you're already in your fitness journey and trying to get back on track after the holidays, or you're, a New Year's resolutioner, which is absolutely great. We love to see that. That's how I started my fitness journey. I was a New Year's resolutioner and now it's my career. So, I definitely think this episode is going to be for those people who are just starting out or trying to get back onto it. Just some tips and tricks on what to do, steps to take, and things you can implement into your daily routine to get back into it.
Yeah. So with that said, maybe we can pull up the little document that we have, which came from a Zoom call I did with my clients last week. So we were kind of chatting about this episode, and I was like, oh, why don't we just share this? We can kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
Or other things too. But yeah, so these were just bullet points that I kind of put together for my clients and then got their feedback too. So we added some things during the call. So that's why it's in a little Google sheet. But Sammy, maybe you can start out with like, I know you've been sick, so maybe it's a little more challenging. Was there anything specifically you did to realign yourself with the beginning of the new year, or just kind of shift momentum after the holidays?
Yeah, I would say, especially like after the last 3 months of kind of just giving myself time off to do all of the things that I, wanted to do, like not having to say no to everything. I would say definitely utilizing the time to kind of sit down and just mentally prepare, like, okay, it's a new year. What are my goals? What am I trying to achieve? And what is priority, right? So prioritizing, once I've kind of mapped out what my goals are, what my plans are, is prioritizing them so that I know, like, okay, this is the main focus. We're going to look at this first. Or, utilizing my schedule, planning out my schedule and prioritizing things in my schedule. So I really just that was the first thing I did, was evaluating what I wanted to achieve, and then kind of breaking it down deeper, scheduling, planning things. If it was something that was like an actual project or task that was going to happen obviously over time and not overnight, I utilize Notion. That's like my project planner and scheduler. So just creating little workspace cards in Notion of okay, this is my project. These are the steps it's going to take, putting a date to things. So I would say that was kind of my first step into getting back into it.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, I think I actually saw oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I saw a little Instagram reel where this gal put together all of her yearly goals in a little Notion template, and I think you showed it to me before, but I saw that and it got me really excited. So I think I might have to hop in there this weekend or something, because one of the things I did do this year is I spent some time reflecting on my goals. Last year was just a year that just nothing was clicking. Felt like I was working so hard and really just trying my best at everything. And I feel like I literally came up short at accomplishing anything, at least in terms of the tangible goals that I was going after. Right. And so I don't want that to happen again. And I think it was just, just sometimes in life that happens. Even if you try, you may not always succeed in exactly the way you want or exactly in the timing that you want. So anyways, I have these goals that I think are very doable for this year. And so it got me inspired, and I think I might need to populate it in there. I think it will make my OCD very happy.
Yes.
So that was just my little aside. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, oh, that looks so nice. I need that.
Yeah. And going off of that, I've noticed for me, I'm a big visual person. So making a to-do list, right? Being able to physically cross something off of, whether it's virtually online or on a whiteboard or on a journal, whatever it is, being able to cross something off and make that mind muscle connection of I accomplished this, I'm capable. So it's also this reassurance process. So it's a mental thing, but also a situational thing, right? So obviously you have goals set for yourself, but being able to physically cross something out and say, I accomplished that, then that gives you the confidence to believe that you're capable of accomplishing everything else on that list, whether it be a small goal or a big goal or, finishing a project. So I think that helps mentally, whether we think we're that kind of person or not, being able to actually sit down and say, okay, measurable, this is done. It helps build that confidence of okay, I can keep going. I can do this. I got this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. And I know both you and I are kind of that type of person where we like to be really organized and have things really mapped out. But like you said, not everyone is like that. So maybe, because this will go up on audio too, not just on YouTube, maybe we can kind of run through some of the strategies we have here for not just maybe shifting your momentum, because that can be a hard thing to do. A lot of times just in life, right? If we're not where we want to be, sometimes it just requires a shift in momentum, which can be hard to just make those initial habit changes or build up that initial energy. So that we got that. We have a list of tips to refocus on health and fitness, obviously very relevant for competitors or just anyone who wants to be fit, beautiful bikini babe. And then some tactics to kind of implement that. And I think that'll be where we could, geek out on organization if we want to.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe let's just start with shifting the momentum, bringing good energy or positive energy. You were just sick, Sammy. Is there anything you did to kind of feel like yourself again after, a long time of just kind of being down with the flu?
Yeah, I would say I just like getting back into the gym, first of all, was like the end all be all. I was like, you know what? And two, like, as a competitor, or even if you're not a competitor, when the gym is like the biggest part of your life, while it's the biggest part of your life, like I was going almost 6 or 7 days a week. And like I've taken a step back to realize that like if you're not in prep and you don't have an hour of cardio every day, that's not always necessary. Like realistically, like 4 or 5 days, 5 or 6, depending on what your split is, depending on what kind of person you are. But like just being back into the gym and like actually having a routine and like getting up every day and actually getting yourself ready. Like even if like the last 2 days, I would say I was like kind of feeling better, kind of dabbling back into work. But like the one thing I did, aside from even if I was at the gym for 30 minutes and like just did some form of movement, I got ready. I put makeup on, I put an outfit on, I got out of my pajamas, like just like look good, feel good was my mantra, right? And that's kind of my mantra this year. And I did a little post on Instagram of like my ins and outs, like I did that little trend. And it was getting ready every day, regardless of what I had on my to-do list. Like, even if I only have computer work to do and I don't have to be forward facing, I'm going to get ready, because when I look at myself in the mirror, again, look good, feel good. Like, that's just like the energy, the vibe you give yourself.
Yeah, totally. That's great. Yeah. And I relate to that too. I think a few months ago when I was kind of kicking off my off season, and just feeling whatever type of way about my season, I started going to Psycho's Body Shop almost every weekday, pretty much at least 4 days a week. And so that kind of forced me into that routine of like, okay, you got to get up early every morning to get ready, get Frankie out, get yourself ready. And I would put makeup on at the gym. And cause sometimes too, it's like, we'll film or something like that, or,
yeah,
whatnot. Or I just feel my best too with a little bit of makeup on that's not going to cause crazy breakouts and stuff like that. And it kind of forced me into that schedule, and it's really stuck, and I've really liked that. So that's huge. And just some other strategies too. So one thing I did this year that I haven't done this since probably like middle school, maybe high school, was I made an actual vision board this year. I really want to use visualization a lot more than I have in the past. I've always used it competing. Like I've always really tried to visualize myself on stage winning, looking a certain way, posing a certain way. And I strongly encourage any athlete to do that. Like a lot of times when I'm doing my cardio and prep is like when I'm like in my head and I'm just like visualizing. So I created a little vision board that's in my room, like on a shelf on the wall. So that was a fun little activity. And if you're just let's say you're just trying to create more positive energy, let's say you are stuck in a really negative space. And I would say I was there probably 3 months ago, like just getting some light movement. So let's say you were really sick even, and maybe you're not feeling up to the gym just yet, like just getting a walk or something like that, taking a break from social media. That's huge. I think one of the worst things you can do too, if you are in a negative place, is hopping on social media the first thing when you wake up. I think I have a rule for myself. I do not look at Instagram the first hour of my day. If I accidentally open it, like I immediately like close it. Like I just like, oh shoot. Yeah. Like I just cheated on my prep diet or something. Yeah. So like that's a rule that's really helped me in the last 3 years. Yeah. So that's huge. I think just like that little break from social media, or putting limits on it. Having a little self-care night, journaling, breath work and meditation are huge. One thing for me, I always I like to do my vacuums in the morning first thing. Like that's one of the things I do as part of getting up. And the days I don't do it, I never feel the same. Like I always feel like a little scattered, or just my emotions are more up and down. And then it's also a great time of year too to like deep clean your space, or just like, you got to put the Christmas decorations away anyways.
Declutter.
And just declutter. So those are huge.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially too, like back to the social media thing. I feel like we all fall victim to, it's the scrolling, right? But you have to remember, social media is a highlight reel. People are only posting the best parts of their day, the best photos in their camera roll, the best of this and the best of that. So it's like, of course, like you're gonna compare yourself to what you see, and it's human nature, right? Like, I could sit and I could tell anybody in this world, never compare yourself to anybody else, but I can open up my phone and be like, wow, that's what she looks like in her off season, and clearly that's not what I've been doing. So it's like, I've even, fallen victim to, obviously I made the decisions that I made, so I've done a lot of like self-talking or like internal, work of like,
Yeah.
you're choosing what works best for you, right? Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's path is different. So it's like, you can't sit there and compare yourself. Like, you've consciously made your decisions. So it's like, you can sit and compare, or you can put the work in to moving forward, doing what you want to do, right? If you have goals, what are you going to do to achieve them? You're not going to sit on social media. Scrolling on social media is not going to achieve those goals. Putting in the work, putting in the time, putting in the effort. So we all fall victim to that. But I think, like, definitely, like you said, putting those parameters on it, or even using like parental control on yourself. Like, you can literally block or like set time limits on your social media. Like, you can only be on Instagram for an hour in the day, So like, utilizing those features, like, technology's come so far for that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's so much. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. Like, one thing too, I'll try to post frequently, or, share stories or whatever, but I'm not like, I rarely am like just scrolling. That's something I just try to avoid in general. Like, I like to see what my friends are doing. So maybe I'll go and I'll actively look at their stories if I'm giving myself social media time, but it's very rare that I'm just sitting and scrolling. Because when I do that, like the times that I do that, I just feels like I'm scrambling my brain. Like, if I just sit and I'm like eating a meal and I'm scrolling through Instagram reels, or maybe I'm trying to look for an audio, maybe I'm trying to find an audio I want to use. After 15, 20 minutes of that, I'm like, my brain is so like discombobulated. Like, what have I just absorbed? Or just, so yeah, I just don't think any of that is good. So I think a lot of people could probably benefit from putting some boundaries on their social media use, or just kind of chilling out with that. And I think what I do a lot instead is I consume a lot of YouTube, because I'll passively, like, I'll put videos or podcasts on in the background while I'm working, if it's something where I don't feel like I'm going to be disrupted, or like music or something like that. So
just like passive thoughts.
I can't do too much social media.
And too, it's like that goes to the next one, like finding a new podcast or like an audio book. And it's like the time that you would spend scrolling social media, like, especially like you said, greatest example, when you're eating a meal, right? When you're eating a meal, you're taking, sometimes you eat at your desk, of course, that happens when you're busy, but like sometimes you take that moment to like disconnect from work, and you're on your lunch break or whatever it is, and like your initial habit is to open up social media. So like, instead, replace it with a podcast. Like, typically lunch breaks are 30 minutes to an hour. So like, you can get half of a podcast in, or a full podcast in, depending on the length of it. So it's like, just replacing bad habits with like educational habits. Or if you're listening to an audiobook and it's educational, like, for that, I implemented something. So like, I'm a big smut book reader. I just started and I'm like obsessed with them.
I love it.
And I told myself, for every one educational book that I read, I'll allow myself to read a smut book. Because once I start a smut book, I can't put it down. And which is so weird, because I'm not a book reader whatsoever. Never have been in my life until I found smut books. So I told myself, for every educational
by smut books, you mean like a romance novel, right? Something like that. Or like a 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, which are like romance novels. Yeah. I used to read stuff like that, like back in the day when they would have like I'm sure they still do like fan fiction and stuff online.
Yes, yeah.
So that was like pre 50 Shades of Grey.
Recommendations. Yeah.
Oh, send me some.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Too funny. I love that. That's great. And that's like balancing almost like your healthy food and your snack foods, or like your healthy food and your In and Out.
Exactly. Yeah, so I think that's, great. And back to your vision board. That is definitely something I want to do. I wholeheartedly planned on doing that. I've always seen people do it, and I thought it was the cutest idea. And again, I'm such a visual person, so I think I'm going to work on that this week or this weekend, is to have something that I can like put up in my office that it's like tangible, because I always like set goals in my brain, but like obviously if I don't write it down, like I can't follow through with it, or like I have ADD, so like my brain is just like, have you ever seen the meme of it's like the little animated guy running around and like the office is on fire and like papers are flying all over the place?
Where it says
That's
this is
kind
fine.
of my brain sometimes.
Is it that one that you're talking
everything
about?
Everything is
That
fine.
was like the biggest, most popular meme when I worked at the engineering company. That was like used constantly.
Yeah, so that's
no, I get you.
I need
actually
just that schedule.
Yeah, actually, one thing I think I'm going to do, and maybe we could organize this, or if you want to just hop on it, Sammy, I think what I'm going to do, because I do a Zoom call each week for my clients. So, and they're all different topics. Sometimes it's just about macro tracking, where I do screen share, and it's for clients that maybe are not as familiar, or they want to get a little more experience with it. Sometimes it's like me doing a topic where I'll talk about how you shrink your waistline with your exercise selection, your core training, your nutrition. So I want to do one where we all hop on Zoom and make like vision boards together as like a social activity.
Oh, that's cute.
So, and what I was kind of thinking is I think I would just open it up to anyone. So I think once I pick the date, I'm going to schedule it a little bit out. So that way all my ladies can, block off their calendar. Obviously you'll need supplies. Yeah. One thing I realized when I made my vision board, Sammy, nowhere sells magazines anymore. Like I went to look for magazines at like Target and Rite Aid. They don't exist. Like magazines are gone.
Yeah.
Who knew?
You have to like print from Pinterest?
No, I went on Amazon. I'll show you. So I went on Amazon and literally bought like this like vision board, like scrapbooking thing that you can just cut stuff out of. Magazines are gone. I love that. They're gone. They only exist in airports now, apparently.
That's so crazy.
So that's what I want to, I want to do something like that, because I opened up before the holidays one of my like surviving the holidays webinars to everyone. And so I had a few of my Instagram followers, some past posing clients that are that I'm not working with as like prep clients or anything, hop on. And it was just really fun. So I thought that'd be a fun activity where it's like, I don't need to be coaching you for you to make a vision board. So
yeah, that would be so much fun.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we'll circle back to that. Yes, exactly. A little self-care night, little vision board. But let's, I feel like we covered these at least fairly well, and those watching on YouTube can obviously see what we've got pulled up with our bullet points, but maybe we can kind of shift this and apply it to fitness or competitors. Like how would we shift gears if we just finished the holidays, we're not liking where we're at, or we're not proud of maybe the choices we made, and we're trying to like shift that momentum back to where we want to be. So obviously, like you said, going to the gym is huge, but there's a lot more than just getting yourself to the gym. So absolutely. Like what are some we've got a little list here, but like what are some other tips that you would give, or ways that you would encourage someone maybe that you're coaching or a friend if they're trying to get back into more of a healthy routine after being off course for a while?
Yeah, so I have it down low in the tactics, but I'll say it now because it kind of plays into the things that we have listed. For my clients, friends, just in general, I always tell people, because diving into like a healthy lifestyle or competing, things like that, just in a fitness journey in general, it can be very overwhelming. There's a lot of like little moving parts to it. So trying to take on, or like going from not having followed a plan for so many months, or just like not having a plan at all, to having this massive plan of a bunch of little things that you need to make sure like all the cogs of the wheels are spinning so that the big, thing can move together perfectly, is to implement things one at a time. Implement one thing, get really good at it for the week, and then the following week, implement another thing, or implement two things at a time, depending on how small they are. That way you have a grasp on what those two things are. You can really focus your attention and your energy on it. Make sure you have the resources. Figure out, like, if, you know, you went wrong one day, where did you go wrong? And then just start adding more things until you have this, like, well-formed plan. Like, even if you take, like, 2 days, you know, whatever your schedule, like, would work best for you. But I always say just start implementing things slowly instead of trying to take on this one big thing at once and feeling overwhelmed, because I feel like that's what happens, like, especially with, like, New Year's resolutioners. Like, they have no guidance, they have no path, and then they're trying to just take all of this stuff on, and then they get super overwhelmed and they just give up instead of just, like, slowly implementing things until this big routine, you know, comes to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so common for someone to be excited about the gym or getting in shape and they're not working out at all. And maybe they haven't been consistently active for like years. And they decide they want to go to the gym every single day. And then they burn out within like 2 weeks because their body can't handle that much exercise. They're not used to the routine, and they were just kind of like gritting their teeth and just like riding this like New Year's new me high for that period of time. Yeah. So you're spot on there. And I think some of these habits too. So like the things that are listed out here for those that are on audio and not watching us on video, we've got water intake, vitamins and supplementation, sufficient sleep, obviously regular cardio and exercise is all a part of that, eating nutritious food, and taking the time without distractions. And that's really meant to be at the gym. So, you know, when you are at the gym, I think a big tip too, to have great workouts and to make sure you're not there too long, is do not be using your phone for texting, Instagram, social media, email. Your phone should be for music only. And if you do have a fitness tracking app, okay, it can be for logging how many reps you just did, but that's it.
Yeah.
And ultimately those habits, in a lot of ways, they compound on one another. So if you're eating good food, you're going to see physical changes. You're going to feel physically better. It's going to encourage you to improve in these other areas. So I think
you're going to have the energy to do those workouts, right? Your workouts are going to feel better. You're going to have the energy to actually put in the effort to get a good workout in and feel like you used that time properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, these things, you can just start and improve on them. Like maybe, you know, if you're drinking one glass of water each day, okay, drink 2 of them. You know, you don't need to start drinking a gallon just because it's January 2024. You know, obviously a gallon is more ideal, but just start where you're at. Like, start where you're at. And that's a lot of times too, like my clients will get surprised when they get their initial plan. They're like, well, shouldn't I work out more, eat less? It's like, no, I'm starting you where you're at, and we're going to work our way to whatever your goal or what your version of progress looks like. So it's like, you can just kind of incrementally make adjustments. Or you're not taking any vitamins or supplements. Okay, start with like a multivitamin and probiotic. Keep it super simple. And then you can always like dive into the weeds of, okay, what's creatine? What's L-carnitine? Do I need BCAAs? Should I take a pre-workout? With that, you know, figure all that out later. Just get started with something that's better than what you're doing now.
And too, it's like doing the research, like on those supplements, right? Like doing the research yourself, so that you have the knowledge, so that you're like, okay, I am taking this pre-workout because it benefits me A, B, C, and D. Not because I saw on Instagram that someone was taking it and the flavor sounded amazing. It gives you more purpose to know, like, I'm doing this because I know the benefits, not because someone told me I should be doing it. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you are just starting to dabble, like aside from a coaching situation, right? Like obviously if a coach is telling you to do something, like you would follow that, but you also want to know what the benefits are in addition to that, right? Like, so just doing the research on supplementation and vitamins and why you should be taking something as opposed to just taking it because everybody's taking it. Like, just because everybody takes it doesn't mean it's beneficial for you. Or maybe there's a version, you know, there's a variety that's going to work best for you. Maybe you don't need caffeine and you need a stimulant-free pre-workout, or, you know, there's tons of different things on the market now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And even with that, it's when I go over supplements with clients, I always explain why. Because if I just give them a list, like they're just going to look at it and be like, what is all this? Do I need it? And so I'll kind of,
Yeah.
I think as a coach too, it's also not your place. Like you're not a doctor. It's not your place to tell anyone, oh, you have to take this, you have to take that. It's their choice ultimately. But I'll just kind of explain like, hey, this is what this is for. This is what it's going to do for you. This is the reason why. So they can understand and say, okay, yeah, I get this. I'm on board with this.
It's going to benefit me. Yeah.
You know, explaining too, creatine is one that I think still trips women out, right? Even though it's like one of the oldest, most well-studied supplements and very beneficial. You know, there's a lot of established health benefits, but one like that, I also, you know, explain, hey, this is not a steroid. This is, it comes from food. It comes from meat. So if you're eating meat, you're already taking in some of this. Yeah. So that's, I think, really important. For competitors, what would you recommend in that case? Because competitors are maybe someone who should have, you know, maybe a slightly higher standard for themselves in terms of health and fitness versus just your average person trying to be fit. How would you encourage them to get back on track after the holidays with their routine? I
would say just remember what your goal is, right? So like for me, I'm a pro and I want to Olympia is essentially the overall goal. So it's like, okay, Sammy, you obviously took time off. You're mad at yourself for it, but you can't sit here and sulk. Like, you just need to look forward. So it's like, what are your goals? Remember, you've done it before, so you're capable of doing it again. And it's like, what worked best for you before? What caused you to fall off track before? So it's just like really just reevaluating your life, right? Your routine. What worked in your routine? What did you really enjoy doing? And it's like remembering those. So like for me, I'm bringing back, I want to start doing yoga classes again.
Oh yeah.
So that'll help me with like flexibility. And again, like you said, breathing practices, meditation, things like that. So it's like bringing things into your routine that you enjoy doing so that it doesn't feel like a job or a task. You're enjoying the process while you're doing it. So it's like, you know, okay, I have to take these supplements today because this is what my body needs. I have to go to sleep at a certain time and wake up at a certain time because I know my body works best when I have 8 hours of sleep, 9 hours of sleep. So it's like just remembering what worked well for you before and just again, even if it's slowly implementing, again, whether you're a competitor or starting out first time, things can still get overwhelming. So it's like remembering, again, to sound like a broken record, remembering what worked best for you and just re-implementing it back into your schedule and your routine. And if there's something that you're like, hey, I miss doing this, I haven't done it in a long time, bring it back in. You know, change up your routine, spice it up, you know, make it new, even though it's the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, even go ahead, love.
Is there anything that you either bring back or change in your off season that you do differently in prep? To like keep the structure, but still like have fun?
That's a good question. I think over time, I've only gotten, not that I ever wasn't, I've only gotten more and more psychotic with my level of intensity for bodybuilding. So it's like every year I get a little more like intense or strict, or like I'm always like, I just always want to find ways. Like there's this Japanese concept of like Kaizen, right? So this is really common in project management. It means continuous improvement. So it's like, I'm always just constantly trying to figure out how can I be better? So even in my off season, I think the main things that I maybe have a bit of time for or more time for is like, I still want to stretch daily. I've kind of given myself a pass on my rest day, but I think I'm going to try to make sure I'm still stretching on my rest day and just include that with my vacuum. So I do my vacuums, my breath work like every day in the morning. I still want to be posing every day. I'm probably not doing that right now, but I'm doing it most days out of the week. So that I kind of want to tighten up with a little bit, because that obviously in prep we're doing every day, no matter what. So off season, I don't really like to let that fall off. I think in off season, it's just like, I just have more time for myself. I think that's really the biggest thing. But even now, I'm, creating like a meal plan for myself. So even in my off season, like I've really, like, especially this week, like tightened up my eating. I can tell I'm a little heavier. I'm a little higher body fat than typical for me in off season. Not that I'm still in a healthy weight range. It's not like I'm, fat or something like that, but you can feel a type of way. But yeah, I made a meal plan. So that way it's like, and I just told myself, I'm like, look, Laura, you want to get better at this? Like, do stuff that other people aren't willing to do. Like I'm at a genetic disadvantage being taller than everyone else. So I need to not assume I have any passes. I have to assume I'm an underdog always. And I need to do whatever I can possibly do to get better. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, obviously I've had my fair share of cheat meals, but I'm trying to rein that in and like limit myself to once a week right now. So, so why don't we talk about maybe like tactics? I feel like that's an area that both of us like a lot.
Yeah.
Or maybe can share some more valuable insights, because competitors too are likely a little bit, just they have to be, if they've competed before, really good with time management, fairly organized. So what are some things, we've got a few on here, things like calendars, automated systems, linking habits together, revisiting purposes, kind of implementing things one thing at a time. So for you, Sammy, what are maybe some of the biggest takeaways or the things that you think will give people the biggest bang for their buck, so to speak, if they're trying to really change their habits or change their life?
Yeah, I would say taking a day out of the week. Obviously, everyone's schedule is a little bit different in terms of like their work schedule, of like what their weekends are and like their reset days. But I would say one thing that a good tactic to implement is taking one day out of the week for yourself to, whether that's you take off of the gym, or you're not working that day, or you say no to social events, things like that. And you really focus on yourself that day, what you need to accomplish that week. So whether that's sitting down and mapping out your schedule for the week, or making sure you have all of your supplements, your meals cooked, your snacks prepared, groceries are done, whatever it is, just taking that one day to maintain that. So that's kind of the number one on our list, if you guys are watching on YouTube, is maintain a weekly and daily calendar process. So like using that one day to set the tone for the week. So it's like your laundry's done, your house is clean, so you're starting the week off fresh. You know exactly what your intent and purpose is for every single day, and just really writing that throughout the week, and then evaluating the week before. So it's like when you sit back down, it's like, okay, what did I do last week? What could I have done better? What did I miss out on? And then kind of reevaluating and then resetting for the week. I think that's a great habit to implement, to really just hold yourself accountable and track what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And I like to do a bit of weekly planning over the weekend for the upcoming week. So yeah, same idea. It's like, okay, when are all my workout times going to be? What am I training? What are the big tasks for the week that have to get done, and when, and putting it all in a calendar, because that's the thing is I don't understand people that don't use a calendar. Like I just assume their lives must be like a swirling tornado of chaos. Especially if they have like a family and a job. I'm like, how are you alive?
Yes.
I just can't imagine. But having, when you actually take the time to put what you need to do on a calendar, and then you're like, oh, I would have needed 30 hours in my days to do everything and get more than 4 hours of sleep. So maybe when you have that moment, or like, oh, I double booked myself on Thursday, I can't actually be in two places at once. That's when you realize, oh, maybe I need to reschedule, reprioritize a little bit, because physically I cannot do all the things that I'm setting out to do this week. It just saves you a lot of stress. I think it saves so much stress, so much anxiety. It allows you're setting yourself up to be successful in the week that you're going into. And each day too, like usually what I like to do, sometimes I don't do this and I always regret it, but it's like the night before, I like to review my upcoming day. So that way I kind of
Yes.
know, hey, what am I doing tomorrow? What, you know, for sure, what time do I need to be up? Like, what is there anything I need to do to prepare? And I think that also allows you to have really great days that turn into great weeks too. It's just kind of having that
Yeah.
weekly and daily calendar review process.
Yeah. And back to the whole stress management thing, I think that's the one thing that people kind of, I don't want to say sweep under the rug, but they don't think it has as big of an effect on their health and body composition as they realize. So like your cortisol levels are a big factor in your fitness journey, your weight loss, your weight gain, whatever, you know, whatever's happening in your life, whatever your goals are. And I feel like that's one thing that people are just like, oh, it's my life. That's just it. And it's like, no, you can actually control that. Like you can, there's
Yeah.
things that you can put into place to make sure that your stress level isn't at a 10 every time you send your check-ins. So like, that's a question in my, you know, my weekly check-ins, like, what are your stress levels? Explain. So it's like, I always have my clients tell me like where they're at in terms of stress. And we're like, okay, is it something that we can manage? Is it something we can fix? Can we put a process in place? But I think that's one thing that people kind of overlook is the word in terms of like
Yeah.
their daily tasks.
Yeah. And with that too, it's like it's not just the stress, which obviously can affect your heart health, right? It can affect your mental state, but it's like if you're really stressed out, guess what you're probably going to go do? You're probably going to go stress eat. You know, you're probably going to cope
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have good coping skills with your emotions. At least some of the time, if you're constantly stressed, you're going to cope with your emotions that way instead of like actually addressing the root of the issue. Um, so that can be tough. One in here that I like to point out, and again, I did this like with my clients last week, was linking a new habit to an existing one, or kind of
Ooh, yeah.
integrating something. So for me, one thing that was really easy is like I am trying to stretch a little more. I want to do my vacuums every day because I think it's really beneficial for my core. I think it's really great to get my head in the right state. And so the
Mm-hmm.
way for me to do that every single day is I just linked that to like getting up and having coffee in the morning, which is like, you know, I would love to be the person that follows Huberman podcast religiously and like waits an hour, but I know I can't do that. I will have my water, but I have my coffee right away. And so I just linked
Yes.
that breathwork practice and the vacuums with having my morning coffee. So it's like I'll get up, you know, have the coffee brewing, I'll have like a few sips, whatever, do my vacuums, stretch out a little. And then I feel like I'm in a really good headspace. Now I can go get ready, do the rest of my
Mm-hmm.
day. And it was just putting those two things together. Like, okay, Laura, just leave yourself an extra 15 minutes in the morning and you're already going to go do this thing. So I think that can be a really easy way too for people to incorporate things. And like in prep, that same habit of stretching, I linked to my nighttime cardio. So we're doing twice a day cardio really often. And so it became this really nice, very relaxing routine where I would finish my cardio at night. I would go sit in the sauna, get super sweaty. UFC gym,
Oh
they have
yeah.
like this nice sauna, you know, sweat all my toxins out or whatever, just enjoy the time in the sauna. And then I would go stretch out on the turf after, you know, and I'd go through my checklist. I have a little checklist on my
Mm-hmm.
phone that I'm gonna put those on YouTube soon. And it was the nicest routine. And all I needed to do to get myself to stretch all the time was just do it when I was done with my cardio, which I already had to do 7 days a week. So it was very
Yeah.
simple.
And I think too, like, this kind of goes off of it, linking a habit with an existing one, but linking a habit with the feeling that it brings you. I don't know how to word that. It doesn't sound as clever as it did in my brain, but it's like remembering how good you felt after doing
Mm-hmm.
that task and just keeping that thought in your brain. So like one thing for me is a cold shower. So like the cold plunge is like the biggest thing right now. And it has so many benefits, and like we don't have an actual like cold plunge tub, but we just literally turn the shower knob just a little bit and we take a cold shower every morning. We're in there for like 30 seconds to a minute. Chris and I both do it. I haven't since I've been sick, and he started to feel better before I did, and I just hear him literally screaming in the shower every single morning, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And then I think back, because like in prep I would do it every morning, and I'm like, I felt so good, so ready, awake, alert, ready to take on my day. And I'm like, okay, just like remember that feeling, remember how good it felt, and just do it. Like, aside from all of the benefits internally that it gives, just think of the mindset and the way you're starting your day. And like, I'm sure like if you can attest, like that's how you feel after stretching and drinking your coffee and doing your vacuums. Like your brain is just, you're ready.
Oh yeah. Well, I love this, the stretching especially, which I'm really excited to, gonna finally post that in like the next week or two so you guys can see what I do. I feel like a new person. It's like literally my body feels so good after doing full body stretches, and like especially like deep hip stretches. Like think about how much glute training and how much cardio we're doing. You feel incredible. So I agree with you, reminding yourself of that feeling. And I think that also that kind of ties into like revisiting the vision and the purpose, and kind of reminding, you know, maybe it's not exactly the same thing, but like reminding yourself why a certain habit or like why doing something a little differently is important to you, and how it serves a bigger purpose or a bigger goal that you have for yourself. So even though something might seem small, it's like, it's going to feed into this bigger objective that you have for yourself.
Yeah. And it's like when you remember those small, and we can even do another podcast on this, like setting goals and how to set goals. It's like when you have smaller goals that help you achieve a bigger goal, it makes the process of achieving that bigger goal seem so less overwhelming, stressful, and daunting. So it's like just those small things, like remembering why you're doing it, waking up every day with intent and purpose, so that at the end of the day, when you reflect on your day, you're like, yeah, what I did today was meaningful. What I did today is going to put me one step further to where I need to be, one step closer to my goal, or 1% better than I was yesterday. You know what I mean? So it's just making sure you always have that vision and purpose in mind with everything you do. Just it's a different motivation tactic. Like it's not even a tactic. Like it's a reminder. It's a whole nother level of motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah, it's you know, all these little things, especially as competitors too, right? If that's our goal, all these little things you're doing add up to the goal of whether you're just trying to win a show or build more muscle or turn pro or qualify for Olympia or whatever that is. One thing I'm super pleased with too, like in the vein of habits and changing routines and stuff, is like I'm actually sleeping a little more. The car accident a couple weeks ago, I think kind of like, I don't know if it like affected my nervous system or whatever, but the day or two after that, I was sleeping like 10 hours a day. Like I was just maybe it was just the adrenaline. But I found like the last few weeks I've been really tired, and I'm just like, I'm trying to line up my schedule, and I'm very blessed that I kind of get to make my own schedule. But I'm actually like letting myself have, like, if I need it, you know, if I feel like I want it, like a full 8 hours of sleep, which is for me like unheard of. Like usually 7 was like my best and like what I could do consistently. But it's like, I know that also me getting more sleep, it's going to help me build more muscle. It's going to help me feel a little less hungry, help me burn more body fat. And, you know, just in the last less than a month, I've added an inch to my glutes. There's an inch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In a month, that's crazy.
So it has to be part of it. I mean, obviously I've tightened up on my diet. My training is really, really good. But the sleep can't hurt. So, you know, it's like, even though it seems small, it's that little thing is going to help me with so much of these bigger goals that I have, or even just showing up as a better coach and having better mental cognition and focus and emotional regulation. I know sleep is good for all of those things. So yeah, these little things really make a big difference.
There is, I'll send it to you, a podcast, Diary of a CEO. She talks about a sleep pattern, going to bed the same time every single day and waking up the same time every single day, the effect it has on like your mental cognition and just overall mental like well-being and health. I'll have to send that to you. I haven't listened to it myself, but I know that was like the precedence of it. So
I've been listening to so much Diary of a CEO lately. Like I think because you know how the algorithm is, you watch something and it just suggests more.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this one looks good too. So there's, go ahead.
Yeah. He's such a good host. Like the questions he asks and the way he prompts conversation, like unmatched.
And his voice is obviously super soothing British accent. So it's very easy to listen to. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But
I think that touches everything. The last thing we have on the list is implementing one thing at a time. We kind of talked about that during the health and fitness tips, but I think that was a great first of the year podcast, getting back on track or just starting out. Did you have anything else?
Yeah. No, I think we covered it all. And obviously for those on YouTube, you can see it, can check this out. Maybe we can make this into a PDF guide or something for people to download as well. But yeah, we've got a lot of exciting things coming this year. So thank you. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at bikini_things. And if you're listening on an audio platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., give us a 5-star review, share with a friend, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.